With Trey Smith no longer an option for the Chicago Bears, I want to talk about the best offensive lineman still on the market that the Chicago Bears can target and why the fact of not wrapping up so much money into Trey Smith may actually be best for the long-term longevity of the Chicago Bears offensive line. We're going to talk a little bit about that, plus dive into the mailbag, all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Terry Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off talking about this. The Chicago Bears, Trey Smith yesterday got franchise tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs, taking him off the board for the Chicago Bears in free agency. And this was something that was kind of unexpected. Like, people didn't think that the Kansas City Chiefs would clear enough money to be able to give him that level of contract. They do, at least for 1 year. And it is what it is when it comes down to it. And I actually think this, right? I talked a little bit about this on the episode yesterday, but because I had to throw it into an already recorded episode, I didn't really get as in-depth on it, is that the Bears have about $80 million in cap space, right? They can clear a little bit more by waiving some other players if they need to do so. But Trey Smith would have taken at least 25-ish million of that, right? You're talking about almost a third of your overall money, right? And so because of that, it was always going to look at and be said that, Trey Smith absolutely had to work out if the Bears were going to give him that level of money. He just had to. It was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He had to work out if the Bears were going to give him that type of money, that type of cash, right? So to say, and if anything happened, injuries or anything like that happened, it would have been a huge investment wasted for the Chicago Bears. Now, I'm not wishing that on anybody and knock on wood there, but what this does is that the Bears can still spend big money, but signing Trey Smith would have set the market for his position, right? So now you get to pivot and look at other players that definitely can definitely still upgrade your offensive line and be long-term future starters for you, but just shore up more position. You can break up that money a little bit more, right? And so one of the players that right now that I think that the Bears should absolutely pivot to is Drew Dahlman, right? And when you look at Drew Dahlman right now, yes, he is an unrestricted free agent, right? It is what it is. He's an outright unrestricted free agent. And the fact is that the Atlanta Falcons cannot really put together the money to be able to keep him, right? And the center position is the most crucial position for me as well. But that's not to knock Trey Smith, right? I'm not going to all of a sudden change my narrative on Trey Smith because he's no longer there's no chance of him becoming a Chicago Bear. But when you look at it, who touches the ball more than any other position, right? And it's the first player to touch the ball on every single play. It's the center. And so Drew Dahlman being here, right? I think that it's hugely important, right? He graded out as the fourth best center, Pro Football Focus. And I know some people have said, hey, but what about his pass blocking isn't that good? That's why you have the rest of the offensive line. It's not going to come down to just him. His pass blocking isn't so bad to where it's going to bring down the pass blocking of the offensive line as long as we can take care of business otherwise. We still need to be able to have a solid run blocking game as well because we're still going to run the ball pretty heavily. And so, especially when you want to go up the teeth and up the middle of the defense, it's important to have a good center there. So Drew Dahlman now should absolutely be the case in point number one for the Chicago Bears. Now, that's not to say that he's the only guy on the board there, right? There are a lot of other offensive linemen that the Bears could absolutely pivot to. I'm going to talk a little bit about those guys, but Drew Dahlman and also Will Fries should be the guys, the number one off the board, on the board for the Chicago Bears for me. And the benefit about it is you can probably get both these guys for just a little bit more than what you would have paid just Trey Smith. Dahlman's probably going to go for about $18 million, right? Will Fries is still going to get and garner quite a bit of money as well. He's probably going to get another 12 to 18 million as well, but you can still got that. And when you look at Will Fries, he graded out at 86.9 or higher in his one blocking grade, right? And that's really good. Like he's really good player when it comes down to it. There are also some questions about, people ask some questions about him and his grade on pass blocking, but this is a guy that should be one of the top guards, if not now the top guard in the free agent market. He makes a lot of sense here for the Chicago Bears. I already talked about Drew Dahlman, right? If you can get both those guys, I think you've done a really good job at first step in free agency, shoring up some of your offensive line. Next up, Mekhi Becton, right? Like, I get it where it comes down to. Some people have said that Becton sucks. Like, that's just not true. That's not true at all. Now, there's some concern about him, especially for his health and his ability to stay on the field, right? But when you look at it, he's a solid player as well. Of course, not at the level of Trey Smith or Fries nearly, right? I want to. There's no doubt about that. But if he can stay healthy, he can definitely perform pretty well for you, and he can be a part of an overall offensive line overhaul for your team. Next up, a guy we talked a lot about is Kevin Zeitler. He's still out there on the market, right? A guy that just makes some sense. Is not one of the guys that is gonna garner a lot of money, but has some familiarity. He's played under Ben Johnson, which is a really good thing, and that can help him come here as well. And I think that's a big way for the Chicago Bears. Also, if you can get Zettler in here who can play guard, it's a huge opportunity for you. And then also Ryan Kelly, another center option in case if you do not hit on Drew Dahlman, he's another guy that can come in here, right, and pay off pretty well for you, right? So Ryan Kelly. He's excelled at pass protection, right? It's higher than his run protection grade, which is still okay as well. He finished off 17th best center in the league last year as well. And it's a guy that I think, people say that he should be as high a commodity as Drew Dahlman, of course, for reasons that it's not. But another guy that you can bring in here. Now, I know as the bigger names kind of fall off, they're going to be more and more Bears fans like, oh, we're bargain bin shopping again and again. Go watch tape on these guys. Don't just go off what the national media tells you. Don't just go off what somebody tells you, oh, well, this should be the only guy that the Bears should sign at offensive line. These guys are all upgrades for the Chicago Bears. And I really do think now with Trey Smith being off the board, you can get a combination of 2 or 3 of these guys, depending on how you work on it, right? I think that Zettler's a guy that you should sign. You can sign regardless of whatever you do with any other position. You could bring Zettler in here, right? And then between that being Becton and Drew Dahlman and Ryan Kelly and those guys and Will Fries, like, you got a lot of options here for yourself. That's on top of what you can still go out and get in the draft, in the second round, and even the first round if you need to, because I'm still on the inbound train, right? On what you can do to upgrade your line even further. So, yeah, it sucks that the Bears aren't going to have a chance. We're not going to see if the Bears could have negotiated and gotten Trey Smith in the door, right? But there's plenty of pivots here for the Chicago Bears that aren't just getting into the place where you're just talking about guys that can play the position and not guys that can excel at the position for the Chicago Bears, in my opinion. But like I said, go out, watch some tape. Go out and look some things. I think that these guys all make a lot of sense for the Bears in different and varying ways. And the Bears just now got to pivot, right? And that's why I said, and I had been on the train kind of this week of, this is not a Trey Smith or bust offseason for the offensive line. It's not, right? And now that you don't have to spend that level of money, you can break up that more, and not even just over your offensive line. Maybe that does now free you up to be more aggressive about going out and getting a Josh Sweat, right? Maybe that does free you up to go out and get one of those other kind of big name guys that's also, because we talked about it. You probably weren't going to get a Trey Smith and a Sweat in here at the same time. You weren't in the same free agency. You probably weren't going to do that because of the money that both those guys were going to garner. Now you don't have to worry about that, right? Now you can be a little bit more flexible with your money. And again, this isn't to knock Trey Smith. It's not all of a sudden to say, well, Trey Smith isn't worth the money. No, I still think if the Bears would have got it, he would have been worth the money, especially for this team, right? But now that you don't have to have, market setting money for a position, that you can apply that money elsewhere. I think that it goes a long way, man. So we'll see what happens there. Let me know down below what combination of just free agent linemen do you think is realistic for the Bears to get in here? What's your favorite combination of 2 or 3 offensive line free agents that the Bears can bring in here? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, it is Friday. That means it is Mailbag Day here at Chicago Bears Central. We're going to go ahead and get into this first voicemail. This one's from Keys.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Keys, man. I hope everybody's doing well. Just wanted to call and check in, man, see how you guys are doing. Also, I'm looking at this draft stuff. Been looking at the combine and doing my research. I guess I can say I'm trying to be like you guys for the possibilities of what we could use on this team. And one of the deficits I think might be answered for us, or could be answered for us, is if we watching the draft. and we talk about guys that's just going to turn up and show out, I'm looking at the wide receivers. So you got Jalen Royals, Trey Harris from Ole Miss, but then I think you guys have been saying it, and I've just been watching it. We need a guy that's a speedster. And I don't know if you guys know about this one here, man, but this kid is 6 foot, 185 from Georgia, named Arian Smith. There's projections of him running a 4.2. And one of the things I know about playing football myself, man, knowing this, is one thing you can't teach: effort and speed. And he got speed. All he needed some development. And when I see him and I think about the speed presence or whatever, and we think about Ben Johnson's offense, think about Jamison Williams, man. That boy has speed. And what do we not have for our guys? Speed. So he will be somebody that I'm definitely interested in watching. And I think his stock is going to, go up. It's going to be, it's always like that with the combine. One of them guys, their stock just rise out of nowhere, man. But Arian Smith, I like Jalen Royals for sure. Xavier Restrepo from Miami. It's a couple others as well. But Arian Smith, all right, let me know what you guys think. As always, shout down up, bear down.
Arian Smith. Listen, he is a prospect here that could make some sense for the Bears, right? He could shoot up the draft boards as well. Problem is he's had 1 year of really high productivity, right? And that just, it is what it is there. Just last year was the first time he had even double-digit receptions, right? So, 817 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's 6 foot, 185 pounds. The 40 speed is you cannot deny that. And unlike with like a Tyler Scott where you're losing some height, but you're still gaining speed, I like that. Now, a little bit slighter there at 185 pounds, but I think when you look at this guy, he can play football. There's no doubt about that. So if his name eventually is the name that's called for the Chicago Bears in the draft, it's not like I'm going to be mad at it. Now, I'm looking at other positions before I worry about wide receiver, but this guy can, as you're coming in as your third wide receiver to play in the slot or just fill in that wide receiver room, still could give another opportunity for Tyler Scott as well. I like that. Adding some speed to what we have here with the size that we have and other things, the route running, those type of things is important. You want that speed, especially with Caleb Williams and the way he's able to manipulate the pocket, and he likes to wait to the last minute to give every chance a play to develop. Having some speed like Arian Smith cannot hurt the Chicago Bears. We'll just see where it ends up going, right? I think that's an intriguing name that you brought up here. I know you mentioned other names as well, but that's the one you kind of focus on. That's the one I want to focus on because I do think that makes a whole lot of sense for the Chicago Bears. We just got to see if that's the route they're going to do it and where they value wide receivers at, because they could sign a veteran to just come in here and be a third wide receiver and worry about it in next year's draft to get a more long-term option or something like that. But, we'll see. Do they want a very young wide receiver room? DJ Moore is a veteran. I'm sure they have other veterans in that room as well, but we'll see. And maybe long-term you're looking at Rome Odunze and Arian Smith. So I like him as a prospect. We just got to see if that's the direction that the Bears are going to go. Thank you for leaving that voicemail. Let's get into this next one, man. This one's from our boy Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas. Just sitting here and watching the latest episode with Hayes and Steve-O talking about Mekhi Williams from Georgia. I like the kid. I just want to get my thoughts on that, man. I do like the kid, but I think it's too. I think kind of like Steve-O was saying, it's just grabbing him at 10 just don't feel right. And it's just because he's a raw player, he's 6'5", he's good size, long arms. If you're building a defensive end on Madden, it'd probably look a little bit like him. But he's just raw, man. He doesn't have the fine counter moves yet, and we already kind of got that with Aaron Brooks, right? I think his first name is Aaron. I probably got that wrong. Got a little C-dub in me today. But y'all know who I'm talking about, man. The guy we got from Kansas. He's just, so you want to have two raw developmental pass rushers? That makes me feel like we're not really going to get the benefit out of that until another year or two from now. And I don't think this team, with the way the roster is, that we're a year or two away from being a playoff contender. I think we're just like a year off. So, I'm cool with Mekhi late first, early second. Definitely if he's still there early second, which I doubt he will be, but if he is, go grab him. But I also wanted, man, Hayes, the more I've been looking at that kid that you talked about in your mock draft, I'm not even fixing to try to pronounce his name because I'm just gonna C-dub it. But that tackle from Missouri, man, the more and more I look at the dude, the more and more I like him more than Will Campbell. The more and more I like him more than Banks from Texas. Because when you're looking at an offensive lineman, you got to look at the use of his hands, use of his feet, and use of his hips. And you look at his hands, man, he's knocking defensive ends hands down. His hands are so quick, and his feet are quick. I really feel like even though he primarily played right tackle, unless we're gonna slide Darnell Wright down to left, which I'm totally for, if that's the case, I think that kid from Missouri might be able to play some left tackle though. I think he's quick enough. He opens his hips enough. And motherfucking Braxton Jones, take notes. Watch some of that kid's film and look at how he drops his fucking hips and bends his knees so that he doesn't get blown off the ball for pass rush. Hayes, I think you might be on to something with that kid, man, and I would absolutely be okay with taking him at 10. But let me know what y'all think. Text us up, bear down.
You must have had a slow week, my boy. My boy left 4 or 5 voicemails this week, bro. It's Friday. Darius he must be on vacation. Darius must be taking one of those long Texas vacations. But Mekhi Williams definitely feels like a trade back piece, right? Either you trade back or maybe you move up with one of your second round picks when you see that he's fallen, something like that. If he does fall to the second round, if he falls to the second round, I don't know how far he'll go into the second round because he's definitely for that value. I mean, I get what you said. Like, I like him a lot. I like him a whole hell of a lot as a prospect, right? There's it's not that. It's just that if that's who you're gonna go after, that's not top 10, right? You don't go after that and make that reach in the top 10. Now, we'll see if he moves up the draft combine. I don't think so personally, but it is definitely somebody that you want to look at and see what's going to develop and come out of that, I think, as well. But, we'll see what happens with Mekhi Williams. He's a guy that makes some sense for the Bears. Again, calculated risk depending on where exactly he falls. So we'll see where that happens. But I do like him on the board, right? Now, Mbao, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's growing on a lot of Bears. And there are a lot of Bears fans that mentioned that they didn't even, really hear much talk about him until my mock. I can't even take credit for that. I think I initially saw, I can't remember who brought him up. There was another guy then I started researching like, I like this guy, right? You look at him, he has the technique, right? And that's the thing. I get it that he's a little undersized, quote unquote, but like the hand technique, the dog mentality, you can't bull rush him. Like, all those type of things to me have all the makings of a quality offensive lineman. Now, I'm glad that Darius can finally stop talking about trying to turn Braxton Jones into another position, but Mbao is a dog. And if he ends up getting his name called by the Chicago Bears, I tell you what, I'm not going to turn my nose up at it because I think he can come in here and definitely help the Chicago Bears, at least in my personal opinion. But you guys can let me know how you feel down below. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for today, man. This one's from Xavier.
What's going on, guys? This is Xavier calling in, man. I just want to tap in with you guys and talk about this upcoming free agency. In a way, I'm happy that the Chiefs are franchise tag Trey Smith. Don't get me wrong, he's exceptional. He would have been the best offensive lineman available and free agency, but we gotta think about it, bro. We can't wrap that much money up into one player. Like, I feel like, he's worth it, but we need help across the line. We got way too much going on that's wrong on our offensive line. So even if we don't get like the top A-list guys at the position, even I'll take a B-list guy, bro, because offensive lineman, bro, it's not about like it's more so. It's not really about like their caliber per se, because they could be good, but if you just plug in one guy on offensive line, it's not going to change the entire offensive line. If you get some B caliber guys across the line, that could change the line because they can build together, and help the young guys that we do have, like a Darnell Wright, and Braxton Jones is still there, which I'm hoping he's not. They could possibly even help him. But just having those type of guys across the line, it'll help, man. Just B-list type of guys. But I'm happy that we not gonna be able to sign them because we'll be able to help across the line as a whole. But let me know how y'all feel about that, man. Chicago up better.
And that's how I opened up the show. Not wrapping up so much money into Trey Smith. It does open up some other things and avenues for you. And that's perfectly fine, right? So, and again, I don't say that to knock it. I've seen some Bears content creators start knocking Trey Smith now that he's not coming here. And it's like, well, yeah, if you actually look at this play, he did, but before, when there was a possibility of him coming here, you were all for him. I'm not going to do that, right? Because I still would have been all for him coming to the Chicago Bears, but it didn't work out. The Kansas City Chiefs protected an asset, which they are right in their right to do, and they're smart to do on top of that. But now the Bears don't have to worry about wrapping up all that money into just one player. Now, you're still going to have to pay. Veteran offensive linemen are expensive, especially guards, right? So you're still going to have to pay. You're not going to walk out of this, cheaping out by any stretch of the imagination. But now you can break up a little bit of that over multiple players. So if you can get a Dahlman and a Fries, get a Dahlman and a Becton, right? Get a Dahlman, a Becton, and a Zittler. Like you're starting to upgrade, right? You're starting to see those type of things. Evan Brown's still a guy that I would love to see the Bears sign, regardless of what they do with other positions as well. So there's some benefit in not Trey Smith now being off the board because it frees potentially, right? We'll see what the Bears do. Maybe they do have to give somebody else a super huge contract to get them to come here and outbid some other teams. That still is a possibility. But, now to see the flexibility, the added kind of flexibility and mobility that's going to give Ryan Poles, I'm actually excited to see that, man. And we'll see what comes of that overall. And, we'll see where that leads us as a franchise as well. Let's upgrade the offensive line. Let's get some talent in here. As Ben Johnson said, let's go out and get some playmakers, and then let's see where that leaves us. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chi Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.